Now, let us go and look at the breakdown of the marks, the understanding of how marks are given to you. Now, very, very important is, let us first start with the insight. Remember, we have said previously, we are going to give you 8 marks for insight. But these 8 marks are broken up into marks of 2, 2, 2, 2. And the first type of marks that we are going to give to you is the layout or for the structure of your essay. In other words, we are going, is there an introduction? Is there a body using proper paragraphs? And is there a conclusion? In other words, is there a logical flow or a logical link in your discussion? If this is obviously in your essay, in your answer of the essay type question, we will definitely give you 2 marks maximum for the layout or the structure. Now, very, very important is, we have said that the biggest part, or let me say, this type of questions tickles the middle order and higher order. And here, we specifically, the middle order, where you had to analyze. Now, very important is, we will give you 2 marks for, are you able to analyze and to interpret the facts that you studied in the textbook and bring it into current issues of the day. In other words, does the learner has got the ability to break down the question to show understanding of what is being asked? We'll come to that. Synthesis. Another 2 marks. What part of the question would you have included in the answer? Are there decisions made from a combination of relevant points? In other words, to understand synthesis, we are going to look in your responses out of the textbook, out of the books, and we are going to look at the relevancy in your answer. In other words, if you answer out of the textbook and the facts and the examples that you give to us are relevant to the topic, then you will also get marks for insight, 2 of them. And then lastly, before we come there, I just want to say to you, if you answer a question and the facts that you give to us is irrelevant, it's irrelevant to the topic, you are also going to lose marks for that. Then the last 2 marks of the 8 is for originality. Examples in your questions. Recency of information. In other words, I just want to tell you that if you look into the acts, if an act is in practice, but it's going to change, and you mention about these amendments to the acts, then it's recency. You'll get a mark for originality. Current trends and developments, and there's your 8 marks. Right. At the end of the essay, the teacher will indicate the location of marks for facts and marks for insight as follows. You will write down facts and you will count all the facts up to a maximum of 32. Then, I think you also know already the abbreviation, the LESO. The L is for layout, 2 marks. The A is for application, another 2 marks. Synthesis, the other S, 2 marks. And originality, another 2 marks. And it gives you 40 marks for that. Right. Now, let us go back and see, after now that we have done and understand the way the question has been marked, it is now our turn to understand how should I approach this question and how should I answer it. Discussion on what the examiner wants from me. It is extremely important to give the examiner what is wanted. The examiner wants a structured essay in which you are showing an understanding of the topic. In other words, forget about the topic. The structured way in which the essay must be presented, there must be an introduction. We must see it. You must write introduction, heading introduction, and then you come up with an introduction. We'll come to that. Then, very important is there must be a body. You must write body. And then you divide the body into those topics, those subheadings of which the examiner wants from you. And then lastly, remember there must be a conclusion. You write conclusion. Now let us go further on. They say here to us that the critical question is, how do I structure my essay in a logical way? The following is a suggestion on how this can be done. As I have said, write down, you start with an introduction. What you are dealing with when answering this question. Now very, very important is, out of your experience, from grade 10 up to now, you will see that most of the essay type questions asked comes in a form of a case study. Now very, very important. Don't quote the case study as an introduction. You will lose marks from that. But your introduction must lead the way for the rest of your responses towards the question. So very important, I want to repeat. Don't copy the part of the question, or let me say part of the case study into or in the phrase of the question and use it as an introduction. You will lose marks for that. Now after you have done the introduction, out of the 32 marks, you will only get 3 marks for the introduction. 3 marks, a maximum of 3, 1 to a maximum of 3, and here we want 3 facts. 1 fact, 1 mark, up to a maximum of 3. Every introduction is 1 mark for 1 fact, and to a maximum of 3. The body. This is now the factual content of the essay. It is best to subdivide the content using the headings, the subheadings, and the details. And then lastly, the conclusion. Now very important, the conclusion counts only 2 marks. So 5 marks of the 32 marks goes for introduction and for a conclusion. The rest of the 32 marks is for facts, is the factual side. In other words, 27 of them. Right. Now, answering the question set, it is very important that you should answer the question that is set. To do this, there are a number of steps that you must follow. Remember now, besides the content that you know, the information that you know, there are some steps that you had to follow in answering this type of essay type questions. Step 1 is, and later on we are going to do this practically by means of looking into a question. So therefore it is important that you should remember what I'm trying to say to you. Step 1 is read the question. And grade 12s, let me warn you, most of you think if you have read the question once, you know what is going on. Listen very carefully. Read the question until you understand what is being asked, what the examiner wants from you. In other words, when you read the question, take a highlighter and look for the action words or the action verbs. Analyze what content is wanted. That is step 1. If you understand and you have done step 1, go to step 2. And step 2 is you plan your essay. In other words, come up with an introduction, look at the body, your headings is being led off this what the examiner wants from you. And then lastly, conclusion. Lastly, conclusion. And if you have done that, the last step is write the essay based on your plan. In other words, answering the question is what, when, whose, which, how, and who. You should ask yourself this question.